The curriculum that we're using in the school is, it has Christian connotations all the way through it. And that's what we're trying to do, is form a worldview that our children will see a biblical worldview and not an American or a Ugandan, but a God-centered worldview. And so when we're using this curriculum, it's like my two sons, Jonathan and Elisha, who use this same curriculum. I was walking into their room one day, and they have the DVDs that has the teacher on it for them. And so I just sat down to watch. And the teacher, she started talking about a testimony about something that had happened in her life, and I was thinking, okay, this is probably Bible class. But once she got into it, then she said, okay, open up your algebra book. And I said, whoa, this is not Bible, this is algebra, this is math. And so you can see that it has God in every part of it. And that's what we're wanting to bring to our children here, is that they see that everything has to be centered on God. And so like every culture, the United States or the Ugandan culture, there are good things and there's bad things. And like a sieve that you use for filtering sand, you want to bring the good things out, and you can use those, and the bad things you take and you discard. So what we want to do is we want to use the Bible as our sieve. And we take the culture and we pour it through this, and whatever lines up with what the Word of God says and how we're supposed to behave, it comes out, and that part of that culture we use. The part of the culture that does not, we take and we throw away, such as sacrifices or other things that are not useful. Then those things are to be cast away and not used. And that way it goes along with what God is trying to tell us to do. And so the Bible is our sieve, and we filter through the Word of God all of those things, and we discard the parts of those cultures, because we don't want our people to do away with their culture. We want them to keep those things that are good and be able to utilize them, but those things that are not, we discard them. And that's what we're trying to teach these children. Not an American worldview and not a Ugandan worldview, but a biblical worldview that they can use and take into their life as they grow into adults. This school that we have here in Ochuka we have, I think this year, registered about 288 children. And that's just a small amount of children that we would love to reach with this type of teaching. The school system is working out very well. We have so many testimonies from parents and everyone about how it is with their children, giving them a better behavior at home and changing the way that they are compared to the other children. But our teachers have attested that all of our discipline problems have just about disappeared in this since we've started teaching this curriculum. So if we can take this and reach more children in this country, it would be awesome. Right now we're talking about taking one to Kitgum, and we're praying that we'll be able to start kindergarten, possibly a P1, which is first grade, in the next month or two. So we would be able to reach at least another 50 to 100 children. And that's still just a small amount, but we want to keep possibly replicating this so that we can have more and more schools. We've had other districts. The Moyo district has already asked us to bring something. There's several other districts that want us to bring a school with this type of education, because the parents are so hungry for their children to learn something and be able to have a better education, especially here in the North, because education has been almost nothing because of the war that went on for 20 years. Many of the parents of the children that we're teaching here have never been to school because they're in that 20, 25-year age. They were born sometime around the time the war started, and now they're having children as the war is ending. So it's very important for us to be able to get more and more of these schools up and running to be able to give more children a better education to where that they can actually be thinking, have an imagination, not just learning something to be able to get a job in the future or go back into the village, but to be able to take it and utilize the knowledge in which they're learning. I look and see many of these being in our politics, prayerfully being pastors, being leaders in churches, being able to spread the Word of God, moving outside of this country possibly, but mainly their education will afford them to be able to interact with other countries more so than what they are now. It's an education that will allow them, especially with being able to speak English, learning at such a young age, they will be bilingual instead of having English as a second language. And that, many people think, well, that's arrogant of you to bring in English and say, okay, well, you need to do it. But if you look on their website for Uganda, their national language is English. So for their country to be able to come together and be more unified, when you have 60 to 70 dialects already, then you need one language so that they can go anywhere in their own country and be able to get a job and be able to communicate well. We're talking now about starting a teacher's college. We have a university in Mobile, Alabama, where we're from, that is interested in helping us maybe with some curriculum writing for that. In fact, a doctor, Nancy Huff, who is a member of the church that we were sent from, she's very interested in it, as Lisa was talking to her when we were on our furlough last year. And she is leading a team, bringing some of the teachers from that university to come over and evaluate some of the teacher colleges that are already here, and then see what they can do to help us in building this curriculum and teaching these teachers. Because with this new curriculum that we're talking about introducing in our schools, we need teachers that are taught how to teach. And if we look at the education system of Uganda, when the British came in and they started teaching, we talked to many of the older people, and their education was good. But then the British moved out and the Ugandans took over. They didn't evaluate their system of education, and they mainly kept it the same for the last 40 years, 50 years. And over that period of time, you've got teachers that are coming out of the school system, and then they're becoming teachers with a little lesser education. Okay, the education has gone down. And then those teachers now are teaching children, and those children are coming up through a little lesser education, and then they become teachers, so you're perpetuating a downward spiral. What we're trying to do is bring these teachers out of the school system that they have now and bring them up to a higher standard, so that when they teach, their standard will be higher, and the children that are learning from them will have a higher standard, and they will in fact have a higher standard when they come out of school. And so those are the things that we're trying to do with that, starting here in Gulu town. We here at Sanctuary of Grace, we have many ways that people can be involved, by sponsorship of the children, just general donations for the general running of the ministry, coming to see, and being on a mission trip, short-term trip, coming and seeing what we're doing here. We have building teams coming, we have curriculum building teams coming, we have medical teams that come sometimes. So there are many different ways that you can be involved. Most of all, we ask for prayer. The prayer is the greatest weapon of a Christian that will overcome anything. And even Jesus told his disciples that when they said, "Why can't we cast out this demon out of this child?" And he said, some things have to be done by prayer and fasting. And so we ask for those. We covet your prayers, and we thank you for being involved in our ministry.